As EB said, my name's Peter V.S. Bond. I work at Fetch Rewards. We are a mobile loyalty platform with 14 million active users that are being rewarded for buying the brands they love. I also co-host a popular CPG retail industry podcast, The CPG Guys. As EB mentioned, our guest today is the Chief Marketing Officer for Ernest and Julio Gallo Winery. It was founded by her grandfather and great uncle over 85 years ago. It's now the largest family-owned winery in the world, exporting nearly 100 wine brands and 20 spirit brands to 90 countries. She's also heavily involved in the development of innovative new products, which has led to numerous highly successful brand launches. So please join me in welcoming to this conversation, Stephanie Gallo. Stephanie, how are you today?
Good. Hi, Peter. How are you?
I am doing terrific. You know, I'm particularly excited to host this session because of the industry segment you're in. It's near and dear to my heart. And I know we're going to have a really lively conversation. So why don't we just jump right into it? And I've got a series of questions. We'll see what the audience also has to add to that. But let's start with, at a high level, that E&J Gallo's stated mission is to democratize wine for consumers in the United States and throughout the world. Can you help explain what you mean by that and what were kind of the market conditions that led to you establishing this mission?
So, thank you so much for that question. I think that in order to best answer that question, if it's okay with you, I would just like to take a few minutes to give you the context of the founding of our company, because I think that when folks understand kind of like the founding energy, I think that the mission to democratize wine becomes very clear. So our company was founded in 1933 by my grandfather, Ernest, and my great uncle, Julio. They were 23 and 24 years respectively. And during that time, they started with a very simple mission, and it was to transform the United States from a beer and whiskey drinking culture to a wine drinking culture. As the company grew, their vision was really to democratize wine in the United States. As we fast forward today, what we say within the four walls of our company is that we failed to live up to that mission. 85 years later, 86 years later. And the primary reason for that is that wine is still very much a niche category in the United States. 80% of the volume is consumed by 11% of the population. And also when you look at just where we are as a country on a per capita consumption, while the United States is the fourth largest in US wine production, we rank 39 as far as per capita wine consumption globally, behind countries like Uruguay, Denmark, and Iceland. So, when we think about really making wine part of the American fabric, we think that we have a long way to go. So that's really what democratizing wine is. It's really making it accessible for all that choose to participate in the category.
That's great, Stephanie. I want to talk about the impact of the pandemic. It's so prevalent in our lives. Given what has happened, is wine now perceived as more of a casual social beverage as people started to change their consumption patterns during the pandemic? And is it less of an elitist beverage? What are ultimately the implications for your ability to market wine since this all started to unfold?
Yeah, so, I think that what we noticed with the pandemic was really a major shift in where people were consuming alcohol. So during the pandemic, obviously the on-premise establishments shut down and people were starting to shift their consumption habits away from on-premise to their home environments. And, what we noticed was that, yes, people were consuming more wine, but they were consuming more wine and alcohol beverages at home. As we are emerging out of the pandemic, what we've noticed is that wine consumption has remained pretty much the same prior to the pandemic. So, I think that we were hoping that the pandemic would introduce a lot of people to wine for a lot of hypotheses, right? Like they had the time to consume wine at home, they were cooking more meals at home, but really what we realized through the work that we're doing is that consumption patterns stayed the same, but where people were consuming wine just happened to change.
So then how does that have implications for your overall marketing strategy if they're changing the venue in which they're consuming that wine?
I think that for the most part, the marketing strategy really is around, during the pandemic, it was really around, making sure that our messaging was relevant to how people were consuming the products. We obviously stopped promoting our products in channels where they were simply not open, and we were shifting the mix and investing in channels where people were able to purchase our products. During the pandemic, which was a blessing for our industry, is that it definitely accelerated purchase of alcoholic beverages in online. And for a whole host of reasons, to buy wine online or alcohol beverages online, it's not really a great user experience. But the pandemic really encouraged folks to use the online channel as a way to access their alcohol beverages. So I think the stats was, prior to the pandemic, 1 in 10 consumers were purchasing alcohol online. And then during the pandemic and after the pandemic, 1 in 5 consumers were purchasing alcohol online. So that's a significant shift in buying behavior that we want to continue to support and accelerate as we move forward.
All right. So when I think about how to grow brands, the first 3 things that come to mind is, 1, you can increase your points of distribution, right? Availability of your product. Another one is you can innovate, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Another one is you can acquire. So in January of 2021, E&J Gallo closed a major acquisition of 30 wine brands from another leading manufacturer. Can you expand upon this acquisition and speak, why you thought about these 30 brands as being appropriate and complementary for your portfolio, and how has that accelerated your overall growth objectives?
So, as you mentioned, we approach growth in 3 different ways. 1 is innovation, 2 is through partnerships, and 3 is through acquisitions. And we felt that the brands that we acquired from Constellation really helped us accelerate our mission, quite candidly, to democratize wine, to make wine accessible. And our portfolio, we have over now 130 brands, and we compete in every segment. And as we continue to invest in our premium and luxury business, we also saw that there was a tremendous opportunity to continue to invest in what we're calling the below $11 category. And the reason why the below $11 category is so important to the wine industry is that our research shows that most consumers, as they come into the wine category, enter in under below $11. So if you're a niche category that's looking to become accessible, having affordable products where people can begin to enter the category, learn and experiment is absolutely critical. And what's also interesting is that as consumers enter in at $11, what we're noticing is that as they come back, they're 2 times more likely to come back the second time at below $11. We also love below $11 because we think it's ripe for innovation, particularly around product as well as format. And we know that one of the barriers to consumption for wine is really taste. And we think that the below $11 category enables us to do a lot of fun, innovative product offerings that can really welcome consumers into our category. So for us, it was, my grandfather always used to say, just do the obvious. And acquiring the 30 brands at Constellation was really obvious. It was a great complement to our portfolio, and it really helped us accelerate our vision to truly democratize wine.
All right, well, let's talk about one of the other forms of growth, which is innovation. Your company, E&J Gallo, is well known for driving category innovation, as you mentioned, both form and function. Can you talk a little bit about this? Highlight some particular ones of note you think are remarkable, and speak about how well, and even speak about how your culture accounts for, obviously with innovation, there's going to be on occasion failure. How do you learn from that? How does it drive success for future innovation?
So you're so funny because once you use the word remarkable, you set the bar really, really high. So I think that to understand, really why we're passionate about innovation is that it truly is one of our core values. So we have 7 core values at Gallo. Innovation is one of them, and we place, we place great value on big ideas, and so we are constantly looking to challenge conventional ways of doing things, whether it's within brand management, within sales, within operations, within production. And so, we think that to be a family-owned company, it's absolutely critical that you constantly have to reinvent yourself in order to stay relevant, in order to meet the changing needs of consumers. And in order to do that, you have to have innovation as part of your agenda. Some of our, remarkable innovations, I think that that if you look at our portfolio, and I would say over the last 3 years or the last 4 or 5 years, I would like to highlight 2. One is wine-based and one is spirits-based. But from a wine-based standpoint, we're really proud of a line extension under Barefoot, which is what we call our Fruit Scottos. We know that entry-level wine consumers love Moscato, which is a varietal that is very sweet and flavorful. And we came out with a line extension under Barefoot that enhances the Moscato with fruit. So it's a peach fruit scotto, it's a strawberry fruit scotto, it's a cranberry fruit scotto, blueberry fruit scotto. And the reason why I really love that innovation is that it truly lives up to making wine accessible, easy for people to understand what they're consuming, and it truly welcomes them in a friendly manner into our category. The second innovation that we're really proud of, and it was a brand that was created organically, was our High Noon Sunsips, which is our vodka-based seltzer. And it truly was an innovation when we crafted it, I think 3 or 4 years ago, where we recognized that consumers, when they were consuming regular hard seltzer, they naturally assumed that they naturally thought that what they were consuming was a vodka-based seltzer. And we felt that going out to the market with a premium seltzer with real ingredients of vodka and real fruit was a point of differentiation. And we thought that the market would accept it, that consumers would accept it, and they have. And I think that it's been a great addition to our portfolio, and it's really accelerated our growth into the ready-to-drink segment.
I love how you describe the entry point as some of the sweeter wines, the Moscato. I think about when I met my wife, she really only drank Moscato and Riesling. It was very much in that order. And now as more of a selfish reason that I didn't want to always have to order red by the glass when we went out to dinner, I acclimated her to some other red varietals, and now that is more decidedly her flavor and flavor profile. But I totally understand what you're talking about there and why that was such a great way to get people engaged in the category specifically.
And when you look at within wine, what is really driving growth, it is wines that have flavor. So another category that's growing is New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs. And because you love wine, you get what I'm talking about. New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs deliver a tremendous amount of flavor. It's not necessarily sweet, but it's definitely flavorful. And then the other segment that's really growing is all things sparkling, and particularly our Prosecco, like our La Marca Prosecco. And when you drink a Prosecco, it has flavor. So consumers are definitely telling us something, and we definitely think that a major trend in drinks is full flavor, it's flavorful products.
And I think with the Prosecco and the celebration element that is usually
Okay.
associated with it, everybody's looking for a reason to celebrate these days after a couple of years of challenge.
During the pandemic, we did see sparkling sales accelerate as well.
So let me shift to how you build out long-term loyalty with the consumers who are buying your brands. Would love to understand, as a portfolio, how E&J Gallo is seeking to build loyalty mechanics into your overall marketing strategy.
It's funny that that you asked that question. So I like to say that what makes marketing so challenging within the wine category specifically, it's different than spirits, is that our category, the consumer behavior is very promiscuous. More so than I think any other category that I've studied. And I think that there's two ways that we are looking at it. I think one, we're committed to truly building brands in a non-branded category. And so, with that, when consumers discover a wine that they like, often they don't remember what they're consuming. And so they obviously then move to something else. But we truly believe in the power of brands in a non-branded category. The second, and I think that it's so apropos that you mentioned it, we are looking at trying to solve the loyalty challenge. I think that there's two primary, ways that we're looking at it. The first is why the partnership with Fetch was really important for us. I think that it's a program and a vehicle that really allows us to drive loyalty in a promiscuous category. And we're learning, as you know, we're seeing what works, what doesn't work, but it's been proven to be pretty effective for us. And then the second we actually inherited from Constellation was a loyalty program, and Black Box has it. And again, we're learning. So it's a muscle that we're really trying to develop, because in our category, it's something that remains elusive.
Yeah, I think this concept of having a portfolio of brands that collectively can build loyalty, particularly as you described in a promiscuous category, where I think about at the height of my wine collection, I had about 1,000 bottles. If I had more than 10 or 12 of any one particular brand, I would have been a little bit surprised. So in your ability to aggregate those brands and bring attention to your whole portfolio to a degree, that seems like a pretty sound marketing strategy.
And like I said, it's something that hasn't been done, and we're looking to do it. And I think that that's where hopefully CRM is going to play an important role for us moving forward.
Yeah. Let me shift to this concept of working direct to consumer, because I'm pretty schooled in the concept around the three-tiered system and the legality of ownership. The manufacturer, the distributor, and the retailer have to be different entities. The one carve out for that has traditionally been promoted primarily by ultra premium wines in wine clubs, right? So your ability to buy direct to consumer. Where does kind of that element of selling to consumers fit into your overall portfolio, and how do you market that?
So one of our stated marketing strategies is that we want to make it easy for consumers to find, shop, and enjoy our brands. And you mentioned this before, but making wines accessible is critical, and direct to consumer falls nicely within that strategy of making it easy for consumers to find, shop, and enjoy our brands, and truly being present everywhere. So direct to consumer is absolutely an essential strategy for our luxury portfolio. As you mentioned, it's critical from a wine club standpoint, from being able to sell small lot wines directly to consumers that are loyal to that particular estate is absolutely essential. We have, and I know that you mentioned this in a pre-call that we also have what's called the Barrel Room, which is basically our online store for our portfolio, for our entire portfolio. And that is the online store where consumers can purchase the majority of our brands directly. So, we still believe in the 3-tier partnership. It's critical to our business for obvious reasons, but it's important for us to follow the consumer. And if consumers want to purchase our products online, we want to be there. We want to make sure that our products are readily accessible for them.
And are these mechanisms particularly helpful in building what you previously referred to as CRM, consumer
Yes.
Relationship management?
Yes, it's critical.
Yeah, I would think so. Getting those relationships, being able to understand what they're buying, how frequently they're buying,
and why they're buying.
And why they're buying. Absolutely. Yeah. Why behind the buy.
Correct.
Absolutely. Okay. So let me shift a little bit and talk about cause marketing. Ian J. Gallo promotes cause marketing in your overall go-to-market strategy from what I've been reading. Can you elaborate on, why cause marketing is a core component of your business direction?
So again, going back to the founding of our company, our founders really were practicing sustainability before, or sustainable business practices before they've come into vogue. They've always believed in the power of environmental sustainability as well as social sustainability, always, since the founding of our company. And we actually believe that one of the most exciting spheres of sustainability right now is social sustainability. And, we are extremely passionate about our efforts to support charitable causes across our portfolio. And when I was reflecting on this question, I was really proud to see how many of our brands are supporting sustainable efforts that make sense. So, one in our luxury portfolio, we have a brand called Orange Swift that's really rooted in the Napa Valley. And as you know, Napa Valley was ravaged by a wildfire in 2020. And the team came out with a brand that was available direct to consumer called Burnt Sacrifice. And it was a one-time special release. And the wine really helped raise awareness, as well as funds for the Napa Valley Community Disaster Relief Fund. So, that's an example of just really leveraging the power of business to do good in the communities where we do business. At the other end of the scale, I think about one of our brands called Liberty Creek, and the brand has always supported efforts around veterans and our troops. And we've aligned with an organization called Folds of Honor that provides scholarships for families of American fallen soldiers and disabled veterans. And usually around Veterans Day, we run a program for every bottle sold, we donate $1 to Folds of Honor. It could also look like Barefoot, who's had a long-standing relationship with the LGBTQ plus community. And one of the things that Barefoot is doing is they've launched a Bubbly Pride collection where we have, in essence, special designer bottles that are available for purchase. And, cases sold benefit an organization called Free Mom Hug. So, the list goes on, but it's something that I'm really proud of our organization for truly embracing different ways where our brands can give back to the communities that they serve.
All right, thank you for that. So in addition to that, and this is in keeping with the theme of today's series, which is women in brand marketing, Ian J. Gallo has created an entity called the Women of Wine Employee Resource Group, or ERG. Can you share with our audience what's the important work that this ERG is seeking to address and deliver against?
Yeah, so at Gallo, we have around 8 ERGs, and I think many people know what ERGs are, but they're called employee resource groups, and it's groups where folks can come together around shared values or shared experiences. And so our Women of Wine and Spirits ERG is really focused on enhancing the professional development of women within the organization. And how does this manifest itself? Right now, our sales organization is hosting Women of Wine conferences throughout the United States based on region. And it's where our female sales executives come together for 2 days, and they really focus on personal and professional growth experiences. And so I'm excited. I'm going to be attending my first one next Wednesday in Charlotte, but it's a great way to form networks, to find sponsors, and to really work on professional development opportunities, whatever they may be.
And Stephanie, how do men serve as allies in this effort?
It's great. I think that our executive sponsor of the Women of Wine organization happens to be a male. I think you might know him, Tom Gillespie. So Tom is the executive sponsor, and one of the panels that happens at these conferences is, the power of male allyship. And I think that it's absolutely critical that if men in an organization want to participate, they're definitely invited in, and any support that they can provide is greatly appreciated as well.
Yeah, I think it's very important. I've told you in the past that I'm in a previous conversation, I'm heavily involved in Next Up, formerly known as Network of Executive Women, and as a male ally.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen just by the advancing women in the workplace isn't going to just happen by women acting alone. There have to be allies in the effort for this to work effectively. Not to be confused with Women of Wine. Back 3 years ago, you also launched another organization called Women Behind the Wine.
Yeah.
How does this differ from Women of Wine, and what is it?
Yeah, so Women Behind the Wine actually started 3 years ago, and it was a program that was put together for our sales organization to take out to the trade. And it really helps sell a portfolio of products. And the objective of the program was to continue to celebrate and empower women in the wine and spirits industry. And what we basically do is that we highlight the diverse women within our organization that are behind our wine and spirits. And it can look like our vineyard manager, it can look like winemakers, it can look like some of our distillers. And we've launched this program in partnership with the Women of the Wine and Spirits Foundation. And proceeds of this program really go to support a scholarship fund that we have established. So we're excited about it. We're 3 years in the making, and it really focuses on our super premium and luxury wines so that we could go ahead and take out to the trade. And more importantly, what we've realized is that our trade partners are really looking to support brands you talk about socially responsible brands, and it's something that our trade was asking for. We really want to support women that are behind the wine and spirits. What programs do you have? So we really created this in response to what some of our trade partners were asking for.
Brilliant. My last question in this area is around promoting female entrepreneurship and intrapreneurship, both in your company and your industry. I know from our prep conversation, you have some interesting origin stories associated with, would love for you to share with the audience.
I love this question because, and I think when I shared this with you, I don't know if you were bemused or surprised. But I started this conversation by sharing the founding story that the company was founded by my grandfather Ernest and my great uncle Julia with $5,000. The $5,000 loan was from my great grandmother. So it was my grandmother Amelia's mother. So Ernest's mother-in-law gave the brothers $5,000 to start the company. How she had $5,000 in 1933 is a separate story. I mean, she was an amazing woman, but she gave them the seed money to start the company. And I like to say that she probably is the most successful venture capitalist in drinks with the $5,000 investment. So female entrepreneurship is something that is part of our founding story, and something that we truly embrace. I look at, supporting female entrepreneurs in two ways. One, through partnerships. So as I mentioned to you before, when we look at growth, we have a partnership with a female founded brand called Bev. It's a little wine brand in a can. It's started by an incredibly dynamic founder, a woman by the name of Alix Peabody, and we are her distribution partner. And she is committed to creating a brand with a social mission to break the glass, and really create safe spaces for positive alcohol beverage consumption and culture. And then the other way that we support entrepreneurship is really within our organization, and I call this entrepreneurship. As I told you, and as I mentioned before, we place big value on big ideas. And when I look at our innovation team, it's comprised of many women. When I look at our new product development team, the folks that are responsible for crafting our remarkable products, it's led by women. So I think that we can support women in the industry through partnerships, and I think we can support women within the four walls of Gallo through providing interesting career opportunities for them.
So to that end, I'll ask you one more question before I shift over to some of the audience questions. But in mentioning the people who are leading your innovation, and from the people I've worked with, it's my perception that you're attracting some pretty premium marketing talent to your organization. What do you think is the driving force behind that?
Oh gosh, it's sometimes you kind of reflect and you say, how lucky can we get? And I feel truly blessed that we just have such amazing folks that we get to work with each and every day. I think it really comes down to three key pillars. I think the first is people are really inspired by our mission to democratize wine, to really make wine accessible. When you're charged with growing a category, the only way that we're going to grow a category and move it from niche to truly, accessible is through innovation. And I think that the marketers that come here are really inspired by the vision of what we want to do and how we want to go do it. We are committed to organic brand innovation, and there's not that many companies that are committed to organic brand innovation. So that's the first thing. The second is that we're very explicit on what our corporate values are. And, it's integrity, it's respect, it's humility, it's commitment, teamwork, innovation. And I think that the people that come to Gallo will often say to you, my personal values align with the corporate values, and they find it to be a great fit. So I think that's the third and the second. And the third is, we really want people when they come to Gallo to do the best work of their professional careers while they're here. And I think giving people the opportunity to do amazing things, align with their personal values, align with a pretty cool mission is, I think, what enables us to attract world-class talent.
All right, well, let me open this up to some questions that we've been getting through the Q&A function. If anyone has any questions, by all means, add them in there. We'll do our best to address those. First one's from Trisha Patterson, and she's asking, Stephanie, you've already blown my mind with some of your wine consumption stats. Who do you think is your biggest target for growth? She mentions women 25 to 30, men 45 plus, et cetera. And how are you shaping your campaign messaging to that segment? I've got to imagine that it's it depends upon the product in your portfolio, but I'd sure love to hear from you how you think about your targeting capabilities.
It's with a portfolio this diverse, it's complicated, but I like to drive focus. And so for right now, what I'm really focused on is looking at the upcoming Gen Z consumer that will be entering into the category. And the reason for that is that it's a very elusive group, and what they prioritize in beverages is very different than what millennials, Gen Xers, and boomers prioritize. And so my efforts over the next 2 to 3 years is really going to be focused on driving empathy, as well as products that are going to appeal to the Gen Z consumer, because they are the next generation wine drinkers, and how they're coming into the category is very different than how previous generations have come into the category. So Trisha, I don't know if I answered your question directly, but I think that hopefully giving you that context is helpful in terms of where we're going to be spending our time. And by the way, they're just turning 21 and 22. So and there's a huge cohort that's coming in. So we think that there's a lot of opportunity there for the future of our category.
Thank you for that. Mark Sampson, he asks a little bit more about age demographic. I think you've kind of addressed that, but
yeah,
the $11 price point you mentioned, is that true for not only say a multi-serve bottle of wine, or is that price target something that you think about when you create multi-packs of different products, say putting wine into cans and then selling them as multi-packs? And why I'd love to personally know a little bit about what your research tells you the $11 is that trigger level.
It's $11 and below.
11 and below, right.
It's 11 and below. So when you look at making wine accessible, entry-level wines, when you look at alcohol beverage in general, and you have a choice of a spirit, let's say a vodka, a beer, or a wine, on a per ounce serving, wine is still the most expensive beverage. So if you have a choice to engage in a category and you're new to the category, wine is still, from a price standpoint, positioned as an elite product over the beer and the spirits. And so part of the reason why we really focus on under $11 is we think it's important to drive entry into the category. Cans, we do sell those at a premium, but we believe that the reason why cans and alternative formats are important is that they really fit into the lifestyle of how consumers are consuming alcohol beverages today. And it's easier. You don't need a corkscrew to open it.
Well, EB has reappeared, which means that our conversation is drawing to a close. Stephanie, thank you so much for speaking with me and sharing.
No problem, Peter. It was awesome.